everyone, it's Olivia of OC Equine Podiatry, and I thought today I would share with you a real life case study. So this is a pony that is actually a client of mine, and the owner has very kindly agreed to allow me to share this as a case study with you all today. I'm planning on making this a feature on my channel, and I thought it would be a good opportunity for me to kind of explain the pitfalls and the triumphs of each case, and to basically give horse owners, I suppose, a hoof care professional's perspective of how difficult it can actually be to trim some of these horses. Typically these case studies are obviously going to be pathological hooves, and for today I'm going to be sharing with you a pony who, for the purposes of this video, I'm going to call Buttons. It's not their real name, but I just wanted to protect their identity. And Buttons is a lovely little pony who has been suffering with laminitis of late. This pony has equine metabolic syndrome, and he's a little bit challenged in his environment as well. So I think by sharing case studies from the beginning, following it right through to the end, and kind of seeing the photographs, and also get an explanation of what management practices we did, and also how I approached the trimming, perhaps what I would have done different, and kind of just, I suppose, generally reflecting on the case study as a whole. Not only that, but I think that is good practice for me as a professional, because it just kind of gives me the opportunity once a week to kind of be a bit reflective, be a bit self-critical of my own work, and perhaps, open my eyes up to where I could have done that a little bit different. I think we're all able to improve it, and I think anyone who kind of has the mindset that their way is kind of the best way, I think that's just majorly flawed, and I think we can really gain a lot by taking in from all different training schools, thoughts of thinking. I sometimes trial things out. Obviously I don't do it to detriment the horse. I watch them closely like a hawk, but there are some kind of trimming techniques that I might do that aren't kind of what I would normally do. But there are cases where you kind of, something isn't working, there's no point in keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, if that makes sense. You definitely have to adapt your trimming. You have to be open to taking on different ideas, and if a horse isn't responding well, then I will change up what I'm doing. I won't kind of have my own agenda. The main thing for me is that the horse is comfortable, that they're recovering, and that they are making progress going forwards, and they're not kind of reverting backwards into a situation where they're getting worse. So yeah, I hope this little case study is going to be interesting for you, and it'd be great if you could comment below if you do like it, and if there are any other sort of topics you wish me to discuss. I'm hoping that what will happen is that I'll have some people comment on, ask general questions, and then I can basically make content to answer those specific questions you may have. I'm hoping to make this a weekly feature. I'm going to try my utmost to kind of keep consistent with it. Obviously eventually some of my pathology cases might run out, because I tend to kind of stick with the same clients, and they've been with me for a number of years now. I don't really get that much turnover, but what maybe I could look to doing is seeing if there's any other hoof care professionals out there that would be willing to sort of share their story, and perhaps we could document that instead. But we're a long way off that yet. I've definitely got enough case studies and plenty of clients that are more than happy to give me their permission to share their horse's story. Hopefully it's going to be educational and of value to you, particularly if you're a horse owner watching this, or if you're not, perhaps you're in the veterinary world, physiotherapy world, perhaps you're a farrier, groom, whatever kind of walk of life you may be coming from. Hopefully this helps you in your equestrian journey. So with that, let's get to the case study. Right, so I'm now in a tiny little bubble at the bottom of your screen. Hello down here. So let's jump straight into Button's case study, and let's start unpacking what's going on here. So a lot of you on the outset will say, yes, he is a laminitic case, and you are not wrong. However, we must remember that laminitis is a symptom, not a disease in itself. So what he is actually struggling with is equine metabolic syndrome, and that is the main precursor to this particular fellow's laminitis attack. He also had an abscess, which I'll kind of come on to later. When I first seen him, he didn't actually have an abscess. This kind of came on throughout the recovery process, and it did create quite a lot of complications. It's a little bit gory, so I will kind of let you know when we're going to be on to that section, just in case you're having a little snack. Other symptoms of his equine metabolic syndrome, other than the obvious, the laminitis. He had fat pads, crusty neck, and he also suffered with gut dysbiosis, which is something that is very common in equine metabolic syndrome cases. There's actually quite a bit of research going on that is kind of linking dysbiosis to equine metabolic syndrome. If you're quite an avid reader, little researcher, and you've got like an interest in this area, you probably have heard that obviously there's quite a lot of research surrounding a foal's dam and actually passing on her equine biome. There has been links to certain bacteria strains and things like that being prevalent in horses with equine metabolic syndrome, and whether or not there's actually a connection to this unlocking the disease, the syndrome, in a lot of our domesticated horses. Obviously that's inconclusive at the moment, but there is some strong suggestions and connections that potentially is the case. And with this particular horse, there was actually a particular strain of bacteria that was found that was super interesting, and is one of those bacteria strains that are often found in equine metabolic syndrome. So in addition to his laminitis, obviously I said he had an awful hoof abscess. Other than that, he also had multiple hoof infections along the way. So thrush, central sulcus infections. He had a lot of frog zits, all sorts going on. And it took quite a long time to clear, which you will kind of discover as we get through. So I started on the 17th of October 2023. So luck would have it, I'm documenting a year's progress, and that was a complete fluke. I didn't plan that. So that's great. So these are his front hooves. So as you can sort of see, they are long. There's significant hoof capsule depth. There's lots of bruising, a lot of event lines. And I'd never seen this pony prior to these photographs. And these are his hind hooves. So again, very similar event lines, bruising. At this point, he hadn't yet blown his abscess. You sort of see they're just so tall. The coronet, like the hairline, is a very sort of shallow angle that's pretty much horizontal, which kind of gives an indication of where his pelar bone's at this point, which obviously is not ideal, and it's not a healthy pastern angle for a horse to sustain for a long period at all. So let's get into how I've sort of tackled this little pony. So these are his right fores. So the photo on the left is from my first visit, and believe it or not, this is his post-trim photo, which looks like I've done absolutely nothing, but I promise you I have. So this particular pony was incredibly sore. So basically, because this horse was in so much discomfort, I really had to pick and choose when I was going to take a photograph, and a before photograph was not kind of my priority. My priority was getting this horse comfortable, and if I was able to get one after being able to do a little bit of something, then that's what I chose to do. So as you can see from the first photo, he has a lot of retained sole and his bars are ridiculous. So his bars obviously connect to his hoof wall, and that was almost creating literally like an actual wall that the sole would then kind of pack in between, and this was what was adding to that kind of vertical depth of the capsule. And this was like concrete. I've never experienced anything like it in my life, but a hoof knife would not get through it. A rasp would hardly cut through it either. I wasn't in the position to kind of use a grinder. I just felt like it was, very unsafe to do that. And his frogs were like leather. Like it was really challenging, and I kind of looked at this and went, oh God, I don't know if I'm ever going to get through this. But I didn't panic. I thought, right, let's come up with a little plan. So this particular horse I actually visited initially once a week, then every 2 weeks. And that was only in the early stages. And that was just to kind of start getting some of this retained sole and some of this bar out of the way. The back of the foot, as you can see, is obviously very tall. The frogs have literally tried to migrate to the ground. They're very tall. And the back of the foot is just generally very contracted. It's not looking great at this stage in his recovery. So I am in the camp that I like to reduce breakover. Now, anyone can believe what they want to believe, and that's absolutely fine. But to me, with my education, I feel like it made most sense for this particular horse that I kept breakover at an optimal. I want centre of rotation to be in, as close to where it should be. Obviously, this gets affected when they have a laminitis attack, and my job as a podiatrist is to try and get the parameters back to their more normal, stable sort of area. And I didn't feel comfortable kind of leaving this toe just out in the open. The other area that I really needed to focus on, other than breakover, obviously general capsule length, was how high the heels were. They were ridiculous. I actually did a tendon check because I was a little bit worried about contracture on this one, just because the whole foot was just so long that I was concerned that if I reduced it too much, I would put this horse in quite a lot of discomfort. And I also didn't kind of want to put too much strain on the muscles that attach to the tendon too soon. This really needed to be a proper full body rehabilitation. It isn't just about correcting the hooves. We really need to think about the body that's attached to these hooves, and just try and really get the best outcome. I've left, for those of you that worry about when you bring breakover, are you then obviously cutting through sole and things like that, or dumping them on sole, or whatever your concerns may be. The toe pillars, which are kind of the outer corners, I keep a bit of height there, and that's just so that we're not dumping the horse on the soles. However, this particular horse had so much sole, they probably would have been fine without toe pillars. Like I say, it's all retained material, it's all creating pressure. It's all packed in there. It's like having loads of little tiny rocks and they're stuck in there, because this sole was not smooth. Like, there were pressure points all over it, and actually as we got through it, there was so much bruising in certain areas where the sole had kind of collected, particularly around the bars. There was so much blood product there, and this clearly was pushing back on corium, hence the blood product that we were seeing kind of throughout his recovery and for quite a long time. So the photo on the right is from the 14th of November, so that's a month on, and you can sort of see already that the back of the foot's already relaxing, which is really interesting. So I've only managed to reduce a little bit of height at the back of the foot, but that was enough to expand the heels, which is quite remarkable, really. I've managed to get some more of that frog off, but again, it's very sort of skinny, it's very tall, it's not a healthy foot still. Again, the whole foot has kind of come more rounder in shape rather than kind of being like an oval. So we're already sort of seeing, even a month in, we're seeing some positive changes already, which actually I hadn't realised until I put these photos next to each other, which is crazy how quick you can actually see some positive changes when you know what you're looking for. Okay, so these are his hind hooves, and these are his right hinds. So again, photo on the left, October 2023. Photograph on the right is November 2023. So I had very similar issues with the back feet as I did the front feet. He was affected in all four hooves, bless him. And yeah, you can sort of see there's a lot of bacteria, there's a lot of retained sole, the bars are completely jammed up, it's not a healthy foot. And the second photo, I actually think I made more progress with the front feet in terms of how much change you could actually see than I did on the hind feet. Yeah. And then just to add insult to injury, he goes and blows a lovely abscess on his right hind. It was a monumental abscess, and the owner basically rang me up saying that he's on the floor panting. They thought he was going to die. As you can imagine, this was a belter, and this poor horse was so much pain. He was apparently sweating, a little bit of colic, it was really painful for him. And you can sort of see from the coronet just how much inflammation this abscess has caused in his hoof capsule, and this foot went backwards. you know, we kind of had made some progress. He then had this brewing and the whole foot just got completely out of hand and he couldn't weight bear on it, which made trimming really challenging going forwards. It was already challenging because it was obviously already uncomfortable and on stilts, but after that happened, quite clearly, not a happy bunny. This is the left fore sole view. So we're actually seeing a little bit of progress here, I would say. So these are both obviously the left fore, sort of a couple of months apart. Annoyingly, I forgot to get the date of when each of these are, but yeah, they're about a month or so apart. So again, he is in discomfort. I would have loved to have cleaned the frogs better. I was in very muddy conditions. If you remember that rain that never stopped, it kind of was what I was basically in all the time when I was trimming. I didn't have a clean floor to work on half the time. But as you can sort of see, he's kind of got like a trim that almost looks a bit more squared off. And that's just so, again, that the toe pillars are obviously higher than the sole, just so we can sort of dissipate some of that weight, so we're not kind of dumping him on his soles, because at this point a lot of his retained sole was starting to obviously peel away, and I was just very aware that actually his soles are getting thinner, which is what he needed, but you can go too far. You definitely have to kind of keep your eye on that. So as that starts exfoliating, you do then need to start being a little bit cautious. So maybe at the start of the case study, I was a little bit more zealous of how much I'd remove, just because of how long the capsule was. But obviously, as we get more to more of a normal-ish kind of foot, the goal is then to keep preserving a bit of sole and hopefully some healthy sole. So yeah, so already I think we're looking much better than what we started with from the first image. You can sort of see the bars are definitely sort of sorting themselves out a little bit. They're not quite as jammed up and they're not quite as evident. They were definitely far too prominent in the early stages of his recovery. And then this is his left hind sole view. Again, I really struggled to get consistent photographs of all four hooves, and it really just depended on what he was able to offer me on the day. Like I say, this is a real life case study. I didn't collect these photos anticipating that I was going to share them to the internet later. I was just literally keeping them for myself, just so I could have a good view of if we were going in the right direction or not, because often with these laminitis cases you think you're not really getting anywhere, because they just don't progress very quickly, and sometimes you just need, as a trim, you just need a little reminder that you are going in the right direction. And if the hoof is improving, then I'm going to continue what I'm doing. If the hoof isn't improving, then I need to change something about what I'm doing. Whether that's the owner needs to change their management, I need to do something different. It's a kind of process of elimination a lot of the time with these sort of case studies. So yeah, so these are his lateral views. So a right fore and a right hind. So as you can see, we're still not looking remotely like a normal hoof capsule. The right hind was the one that he blew the abscess on. As you can see, he's got a lot of inflammation going on. The hairline's not really kind of going back to a better position at all. He was very swollen around the coronet band for a long time. Just the forces that are going into that foot are just incorrect, aren't they? Like, it's just not a healthy posture. And this horse's body was in bits. He has needed a lot of rehabilitation, like I say, all over his body, to actually recover and do well. So at this point it looks a little bit bleak, and you do wonder as a trimmer sometimes, like, am I making progress? And if you sort of these are sort of photos that you see on social media, kind of, I suppose, saying, oh, what hoof care professionals are doing, they're barbaric, la la la. We've all seen that narrative, but this is just partway through a horse's recovery, and what I'm going to show you next is just transformational, really. You wouldn't even think that's the same pony. So So I really wanted to share these case studies as well to kind of educate general public horse owners that actually a snapshot in time, and just because the hoof looks like that at the minute doesn't mean that that professional isn't capable of kind of bringing this round, and you'll see that later on in the next couple of slides. So what my advice is, guys, hold tight, trust the process. It will get better. So I was still struggling a little bit with retained bars in particular. Like, they were just so prominent and I just could not get a hoof knife through them. And yeah, they were just, I feel like they were just stopping me getting the back of the foot into play. I just felt like the heels were just getting stacked and the foot just kept ending up being in kind of the wrong dorsal palmar balance. So that's balance, if you were looking at the horse from the side, like front and back balance basically. I just felt like, yeah, the back of the foot was just constantly getting jacked up, because what had happened is that the toe wear had completely exfoliated, but the back of the foot kept getting higher and higher. So obviously that wasn't helping hoof angles whatsoever. He also had a lot of bacterial infections. Again, he had a lot of blood product present in his hoof capsules, in all of them. So we took to some soaking boots and we put Clean Tracks in them. Clean Tracks isn't a thing anymore, I don't believe. I think it's been rebranded as another product, but basically it was a vapor type product that you mix with water, turns into a gas, you seal it off, and those vapors can basically kind of get into where like your other topical treatments can't get. It's a really good treatment for these such situations. Like I said, I don't think you can actually get it now. I think it's been rebranded, but as an alternative, I now use White Lightning, which isn't something that you use for soaking. That's a gel, and then you can wrap the foot up, and then it basically does a chemical reaction, and it pretty much does the same thing. Obviously for him, because his hooves were just so dirty and grotty, it was a lot easier for me to kind of trim him up and then give him a really good soak after, and really get everything clean so I could sort of see what was actually happening. By this point, I'd given up with trimming outside, because they kind of had like a little concrete area, but with it just, you know, throwing it down rain all the time, and the mud was just kind of ending up on this concrete surface. So I said, actually, can we trim in the stable? And they'd pull the beds back, and then I actually had somewhat dry, cleanish area to work on. Like I say, this is the real world. We don't all have beautiful posh yards with flat concrete surfaces. I kind of have to adapt and just work in whatever environment I'm given, and sometimes that's not ideal for recovery, but never mind, we have to just work with it. So this is where it gets really exciting, and where I'm really kind of pleased for this pony, because it was kind of like a lot of compounding small things that attribute to something really massive. And this horse, literally, it's like a click of a button like that, all those efforts, and suddenly I kind of did another visit and I was like, wow, like it's starting to look like a hoof. So this is April 2024, so we've obviously gone, how many months is that? So October, got 7 months, can I add? About 7 months in. I think that's pretty good progress of how bad this horse's laminitis was, and the fact that this horse had a catastrophic abscess, that the horse then couldn't weight bear and I couldn't really trim it. So obviously the right fore's looking a lot better than the right hind. The right hind is the abscess hoof basically. You can sort of see like the exit point there as well. But the right fore looks absolutely amazing. As you can see, the hairline is really beginning to relax. A much more suitable heel height as well for this little pony. This pony was just so much more comfortable. The other thing I want to sort of bring your attention to is that obviously, although I brought break over back, the foot's never been resected. Yeah, I've never like kind of rasped right up into a lot of the hoof wall. I suppose like at times, obviously the small bits of laminar wedge each time, but because I was kind of revisiting every 2 to 4 weeks, depending on kind of where we were in recovery, I only ever removed the next bit that was ready to grow out, if that makes sense. So we never kind of lose all that structure in the front of the foot. So as you've noticed on this right fore, hopefully, that it's actually got its full kind of dorsal wall. There's kind of no resection happening. And same with the right hind, you know, we just sort of gradually bring it back. I think this is a happy medium. And I also think it was appropriate for this horse because he was so compromised that I needed to optimize breakover, improve center of rotation. I needed to get the heels down. I needed to reduce the capsule length. There were so many kind of targets that I needed to do in quite swiftly to get this horse comfortable, that 2 to 4 weekly trims was definitely appropriate. And yeah, I mean, as you can see, the efforts have compounded. The horse owner has done an amazing job at keeping diligent with their side, which is obviously the management, and that is the main thing that's keeping this horse recovering, is that the horse's owners were doing so well at stabilizing him, which is just brilliant. So we're in April. Now let's go to May 2024. So this is the left fore. I mean, you can agree, it looks somewhat more like a horse's hoof. Don't get me wrong, we've still got things we need to do, but that laminar wedge has completely gone. The frogs look so much healthier. We've hardly got any thrush. I mean, it's just brilliant. The back of the foot's relaxed so much more. It's just a happier picture, really, and I'm just so pleased that this horse actually did make a recovery, because like I say, when I first seen it I thought, oh god, this horse is sick, you know. He was very, very poorly, and it's really sad to see them like that. And you know, it's so lovely to watch kind of the horse's owners' confidence grow as they learn more about the condition, because this horse got diagnosed with equine metabolic syndrome whilst he was in my care. They didn't actually know he had equine metabolic syndrome. So I encouraged them to have the test. So when the results came back as equine metabolic syndrome, we were able to kind of educate the horse owners on what they needed to do, guide them. If they had any questions, we were able to kind of answer them. And ultimately, it's the horse owner's effort that has made this horse heal. I've just come in and removed the stuff that the horse can't remove for himself. That's all I do. There's no wizardry to it at all. It's just a little bit of consistency, a bit of patience, a little bit of critiquing your own work and sort of seeing what you can change. But I'm super happy with this so far. Let's have a little look at the hind hooves. So these are his hind hooves, May 2024. So again, he was very compromised on his hind hooves. So the right hind was obviously the one with the abscess. So I think that's why his left hind really kind of slowed down in progress as well. Reason being is that obviously when I tried to lift his left hind, he couldn't weight bear the right hind, which is the one with the abscess. And then because the right hind was so swollen due to the abscess and all the inflammation going on there, and he had a lot of bruising kind of in the soft heel part of his foot, he wasn't actually able to flex his fetlock either on his right hind. So his back feet, I wasn't able to get as good of a trim on as I was able to with the foals. Whereas when I picked up his fore hooves, he could tolerate a little bit of trim time. As a result of his hind hooves not being able to kind of be as consistently trimmed as his front hooves, I feel like that is momentarily did create a bit of a mediolateral imbalance, which you can sort of see that the frog on this particular sole view, you can sort of see it's very twisted. You can sort of see how he's been loading one side of the foot more than the other. And that's obviously now something that I can correct now going forwards into his rehab, now that he isn't laminitic anymore. He's been kept stable for a whole year, and hopefully that continues, and we can sort of now start sorting out these little sort of snag jobs, really, just get his balance better. Again, looking more like an actual hoof. It's somewhat recognisable, isn't it? Okay, so this is another month on. So this is his right fore, which is obviously sole view, and the one next to it is right hind, which is the abscess foot. So you sort of see that that's still a little bit behind the others. There was a lot of damage that obviously occurred in that foot. The frog as well. This is kind of where it gets gory. So if you're eating, probably want to walk out now. But last visit, I actually found maggots in it. So towards the end of summer, I'm not surprised, to be honest with you, the amount of flies that there was. And he's a lot better on this hoof, actually letting me have it, but he's not allowed me to clean up this frog as much as I wanted to. So obviously there's been a lot of necrosis still intact that I would have liked to have pared away. But you know, he's done the best he can, and he's held himself up the best that he was able to. So bless him, he's such a genuine little horse. He really is a really nice little pony. And consequently, obviously, larvae's got in there. And yeah, however, although maggots are kind of gross, they did me a massive favour because they actually ate out all the necrotic tissue. I suppose they do have therapeutic uses for maggots, don't they? Obviously not ideal, and it did really turn my stomach. I managed to get a few out, and then the horse's owner did have to kind of help me because I just did feel a little bit queasy. But we managed to get them out. He then managed to allow me to pare all the hoof back. I didn't actually retake a photo last time because I just felt a bit sick, and I was trying not to kind of kneel over too much because I think I might actually be sick. So his actual frog now does actually look a lot better now that I've actually managed to clean it out and things like that. Like I say, the maggots were just turning my stomach a little bit last visit, so it was kind of an in and out jobby. I didn't really want to take a photo and look at it too much. So that was kind of gross. Now here we are, present day. So this is kind of just all the photos of all the feet of kind of the most recent ones that I've got, which obviously are the ones that have been on the slides. So this is, so we'll be due for some more photographs. I like to do them every couple of months, just get a full set. But they look so much better, don't they? And sometimes it is just about trusting the process. So I think the thing with social media is that it can be really positive. It can be there to educate people. It can be there to, again, share experiences like I'm doing today. But it can also be used as a bit of a weapon. And I think it can cause a lot of upset as well. It just so happens that I'm doing a topic on laminitis today, but there are other case studies I want to share that are not anything to do with laminitis. But laminitis is obviously a very widely talked about discussion that causes a lot of polarizing views and stuff. And I feel like without kind of having this full case study and only seeing a snippet of each of it, you could easily, I suppose, make the wrong judgment of what I'm like as a trimmer, because the thing is, laminitis is not a pretty thing to recover. Laminitis is not pretty, and it's not about making the foot pretty. That's not the goal for me. The goal for me is doing what the horse needs me to do in order to get him comfortable as quickly as possible. So a lot of people feel that obviously reducing breakover is completely barbaric, and I'm not here to kind of sway anyone either way. All I want to do is kind of show, look, this is an experience I've had. This is how I approached it. There's a lot that I probably would change. So obviously, getting the frogs a little bit cleaner a little bit sooner would be better. Obviously, maybe saying, actually, let's move into the stable a bit sooner, rather than trying to do it in a muddy concrete yard. But on the whole, I think I've done quite a good job. I think the horse owner's done a good job. I think as a team, we're doing a brilliant job, the vet as well. So I would say as a collective between me, the horse owner, the veterinary team, the body workers, the equibiome people, because they actually ran some fecal samples for my client that, which I mentioned kind of in the intro, that this horse actually had a bacterial infection, which is remarkable really. And then that was able to be fed back to the vet, and the horse was able to be treated. because obviously that was causing underlying inflammation as well. That particular bacteria, now I haven't asked permission if I can actually share any of the report findings and things. To be honest with you, I just thought about that now. It would have been a good addition. But I do know that there was a bacteria that is very prevalent in equine metabolic syndrome, and that was something that was really interesting, really opened my eyes up to gut dysbiosis. Can I say it? So it really opened my eyes up to the power of the equibiome and how it can switch on disease. Even in it kind of sparked my interest in humans as well. Like, so interesting seeing how, like the gut biome and stuff can really switch on disease. And this horse had almost like a multi-layer thing going on. Obviously, he had his main thing, which was equine metabolic syndrome, the gut dysbiosis. A lot of things were kind of just a domino effect, and that's why I ended up with laminitis. But now that we've uncovered each thing, we've managed to get this horse stable, and he's progressed so much. And yet he's not at the end of his journey, and he never will be. We can't become complacent just because he's now improved. It doesn't mean it will stay that way unless there is concerted effort into improving him going forward and keeping him stable going forward. So, what is the little takeaway here? No one is a wizard. There is no hoof care practitioner that can heal laminitis. Time, patience, consistency, and good management is what allows the horse to heal. So basically, that's you, the horse owner's input. That is the number one reason why horses will recover from laminitis. The hoof care professional's job is just to remove what the horse cannot remove themselves, try and get the horse in better alignment, and try to improve comfort. But the rest, I promise you, is down to you. Taking on the guidance, getting veterinary help, getting your body workers in, testing your fecal samples, for instance, some really out of the box ideas that you could probably do to help your horse. So that is my first case study. I'm not sure if I've kind of gone into as much depth as I wanted to. I've kind of just freestyled this case study. Whether or not I do more scripted versions in the future, I'm not sure. I kind of wanted it to come off a bit more natural. I didn't want to feel robotic or anything. So hopefully this is a good first attempt and you've actually found it interesting watching and sort of seeing how this horse has improved. Like I said, I'm hoping to try and do this once a week, just so I can really engage with you all and kind of share you my actual hoof care professional life experiences, things we struggle with. Because at the end of the day, we're all just human. I'm a person behind a screen that actually really cares about the horses in my care. I care about everyone's horse. I care about people, and I just want to try and help in any way I can. So I hope that this has been helpful to you. So that is me done. Thank you for watching. So if you want to connect with me, I am on Instagram, and you can find me at o.c_equine. So you can type that in and I'll pop up. So I'm OC Equine. That is me. This is my first case study. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye.